If the opportunity is not there, build a door. It will definitely knock for you at some point. Parents don't know how to actually portray the kind of want and push that they have for them in the correct way.
Something that you've actually been through, and a very touching story in regards to domestic abuse.
We're not just young people who have no voice and no understanding of the world. I'm very sorry, I am a young black girl who used to live in East London. What certain type of person are you looking for?
Hello, my name is Nissy Tee and welcome back to BEBB. On the sofa today, I have another amazing special guest. Her name is Bridget, whose surname I'm actually going to let you say yourself because I don't want to get the surname wrong, and I really don't want to do that to you. But her name is Bridget, who is absolutely phenomenal, might I just say. And she does a whole bunch of different things, including she is a former member of Youth Parliament for Redbridge. She's also a current Redbridge Youth Cabinet member as well. You're also a 50-50 Parliament ambassador. That's right. You're also TFL's youth panel member, one of TFL's youth panel members. You're also part of the NHS Youth Forum. You are also a co-founder of PsyCon UK, which is essentially an organisation aimed to improve education on both sexual and mental health as well. And on top of all of those different things, you're also an aspiring poet as well. Bridget, absolutely amazing. And might I just add that she's only 16 years old. Yes, you heard it right. 16 years of age. Bridget, welcome. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Nissy.
It's so good to have you.
Thank you, I'm
I
excited.
can't believe you're 16. But before we go on, you have to tell people your surname because I really didn't want to say it and embarrass you and say something absolutely dreadful. So Bridget
Okhioigbe.
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 See, I can say it when you've said it, but when I say it myself, I just didn't want to. I don't want to. You're Nigerian, guessing from that surname, right? Okay, and I don't want to embarrass you.
I'm used to it. I just let people say Okhioigbe to make it easier.
Okhioigbe. No. Not around here. But anyway, we're not here to talk about your surname, of course. We're here to talk about some of the incredible and amazing achievements that you've managed to do at only 16 years old. But I guess everyone will probably be asking the same question: how on earth do you do it all? Because I'm guessing you're a student as well. Right. So explain to me how this all works.
It kind of just falls into place, I guess. I'm really passionate about what I do. I love anything to do with youth services, youth empowerment, youth engagement. That's my kind of area that I love, and politics makes it even easier. So even though I'm doing A-levels, I feel like I'll always make the time to always be involved in all of these organisations and hopefully carry on doing more just to better myself rather than just for the CV as a lot of people do it for.
Right. So you actually do it because you're interested in politics, you're interested in all of that stuff. But how did you get involved with all the different things that you do? How did you even start?
So it was kind of a happy accident, I like to call it.
I like that, happy accident.
With Youth Parliament, because I had, at that time, I had an amazing friend who really got me into this idea of getting into different kind of organisations. I was very much sporty when I was in about year 9, and I was more sports oriented than anything else. And then I was also part of my school council. So for the 2-3 years at that point, I was part of my school council. And in Redbridge, we had this amazing conference called the School Council Conference, where all the school councils come together and get to meet and talk and understand how other schools work. And at that point, my friend was like, oh my gosh, you should totally come to this. You would love Redbridge Youth Council. And I was like, no, I'll never go to that. I'm just going because it's fun. I went, and she was there, and she was saying, no, this is our current member of Youth Parliament. And the current member of Youth Parliament spoke. And she's saying, this is the last day to sign up to become the member of Youth Parliament. You should read, anybody should do it. I encourage everybody to sign up for it. And I was like, should I really do this? It could be a bit weird. I don't really go to Redbridge Youth Council. I'm not too sure about politics at this point of time. And she came up to me and she was like, so are you applying? And I said, I don't know. And she just looked at me. She said, I feel like this is something for you. You should definitely do it. I'm always going to love this girl, Zara. She really just looked at me and was like, "This, I want you to do it. It's nothing can go wrong."
You always have to have those people, though, that kind of are like, I see you doing this, and they push you to do things.
And that was literally the start of it. We had to go through manifestos and interviews, and from, I think it was about 30-something people, they had to narrow it down to 10 candidates.
Wow.
And when I got that email back, and I was one of the 10 candidates, I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh gosh, this didn't actually was meant to go this far.
I didn't know this was gonna happen.
Yeah, I was kind of
did this actually happen?
And so I worked really hard in promoting myself. I started going to Redbridge Youth Council. I was really lucky that also my dad really encouraged me to go for all of these opportunities, and he kept saying like, this, you can do it. No matter what anybody tells you, forget anything else, just carry on doing it. So I carried on, and I had one of my manifesto points was actually seen as unrealistic. I don't know why people...
What do you mean? What was on the... What was one of the points?
Funny enough, I was challenging TFL.
Okay.
It was to allow young people who didn't wear school uniforms to be allowed on buses during peak periods, because for me it was more of a safeguarding issue than anything. I didn't even care about, I want to go to Westfield and I don't have an Oyster card. That was not where I was going. It was more of, at 5 o'clock in the evening during winter, it's dark, and there's young people who don't have their Oyster cards because they've lost it, or they might have left it at home, who can't get home and are put in really compromising positions where they have to walk through a lot of dangerous areas to get home. And I thought that's not something young people should go through, and that's a real issue. So that was a very big point, and when I got to actually talk about it to a lot of people and promote it, a lot of people agreed with me. So when it came down to actually being elected, and they called my name and they said, Bridget, member of Youth Parliament, I was like starstruck. I was like, what is actually going on? Wow. I couldn't believe it.
So you've also mentioned that you do obviously other things as well. So for example, 50/50 Parliament Ambassador. Tell us a little bit about that.
So 50/50 Parliament is a campaign to encourage equality in the House of Commons. Right. So we see that not many women are currently MPs. I think it's only about 29% of MPs are women, and there have been more like male MP. There are currently more male MPs in the House of Commons than there have been women ever, which to me is crazy. So this happened during my Member of Youth Parliament term, where I met this woman called Frances Scott, who she is so amazing. She started the petition and the campaign to actually ask a cross-party kind of agreement for all these MPs to actually try and get gender equality in the Commons. And for me, that was so inspiring, because I was thinking, there's so many fields where people are saying there's not enough women in it, where it could be science and technology or other things. And I'm like, and they see kind of humanities and they don't kind of see it because it's all women are kind of more teachers and more humanities-based things. And I'm like, politics is the humanities. Politics is running a country. Like, that is beyond a situation of there shouldn't be enough women there. There should really be, and I'm not calling for equality as in there should be like an influx of women so that there's no men there.
Just for the sake of having them there or anything like that.
Women can make a change in our country that I think can balance it out and can actually bring to light a lot of these issues that not just women face, but also children, men. The equality is for everybody, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like, I have a friend who makes this statement every single time she sees Parliament, and she's like, every time I look at it, it's really male, pale and stale.
Right.
Which is
male, pale and stale. Okay.
So men, usually white men, usually old.
Right.
And equality doesn't always have to be gender-based. It's also about getting that age bracket in. It's also about getting that ethnicities and different groups involved in our policy making. And so 50/50 Parliament really encourages a lot of young people, boys, girls, men, women of all ages, to just push for their MPs to support women's rights, to push for more women in the Commons, to do something to change an issue. Right,
yeah, that's something that I wanted to speak about, because I guess a lot of people, maybe even some your age as well, might be thinking, okay, Parliament, great, you're there and you're speaking about these things, but what can I at 14, 15, 16 years of age really do to make a difference? Did you ever, when you first went in, ever have that kind of concept of like, but really, can I at my age of 14 or 15 be able to make that change? And being in it now in all these different organizations, have you actually felt as though you have been able to add to contribute to change?
I definitely went through that. I think I always asked myself that for a lot of the time, like, what am I actually doing? Like, what can I actually really achieve? Like, I'm really only a child. And then I kind of had to pull myself out of that mentality and say, okay, I am a child, but I'm also a living human being who has rights, who has somewhat of intelligence, who sees the world
Clearly,
in a different light.
a lot of intelligence. Clearly.
And I also met a bunch of young people who felt the same way, that we're not just young people who have no voice and no understanding of the world. If that was the case, then technically education has really failed a lot of people, but that's not true. It hasn't. And when it came down to it, I always looked at myself and I was like, there must be something more you can do. And I think that's what a lot of young people need to kind of see, is keep pushing the envelope, because the sooner you break it, the sooner you get to see the other side. And it's the idea of opening yourself more. It doesn't matter what you have to do it, because sooner or later it's going to change for somebody, it's going to affect somebody else. And even if it's just one person, I feel like that's, for me, my most important thing. I'm not looking to change the world. If I can leave this world knowing I've changed one person's life, that's a step in the best direction, to be honest. So
wow, that's amazing. I'm literally listening to you, I'm just thinking, there is no way that this girl is 16. You're even filling me with knowledge. I'm just like, wow, that is absolutely amazing, honestly. But just in terms of seeing other young people, you know, and some people might feel, okay, I'm a young person and I want to make a change in this particular area and that particular area. But what was it for you that made you feel like politics, yes, this is the area that I need to focus on? And why do you think young people should get involved in it?
I think it was after my youth parliament term, after sitting in the House Commons, after being able to speak in the House Commons, which was the most amazing feeling, and meeting MPs and having to actually meet a lot of organisations. And I realised there's not enough youth voice in it. This country is filled with young people. Like, we're not just a population of adults and children who just turn 18 and suddenly get to vote.
Bang,
and all
everything
this stuff.
happens.
Like,
yeah.
it doesn't work like that. A lot of young people see the potential to change something, but they always feel like their potential is kind of clouded because they don't have the ability to speak on it. And for me, that was an idea, like, no, that shouldn't be the case. There's a ton of organisations, a ton of adults who currently work so hard to bring young people into this game and actually understand what we need. Things work.
Yeah, how does that work in terms of the interaction, obviously, between young people and adults? Because I'm sure there obviously have to be adults there to kind of be involved in your conversations, because naturally those are the people that will have their hand and be able to actually make those changes. But how does that work? Because I guess that would be a concern of some people as well, kind of like, what if it's just a whole bunch of young people talking to each other? How does anything actually get done?
Really, it depends on who you have on your side, who really wants to work with you and who really sees your potential as something they want to move forward with. So really, it starts off with the youth services. So organisations like British Youth Council, Youth Parliament, Girl Guidings, or just the youth services in general. So like my youth worker, she's amazing. She really pushes. If you care about these issues, you'll push for it. But then I got to work on this project called 25% London. Okay. And we ran focus groups with young people. So it was really just young people talking to each other for most of it. And then at the end of it, it was a meeting with literally different sectors of business, youth work, organisations who have somewhat connection with young people. So it was just literally a room of about 100 adults and then like about 16 young people. And that was the time when I could actually see this is where we now talk to the adults. And lucky enough, we had the deputy mayor come along to hear us talk about our issues as well. And at that point, that's when I knew this is how it's meant to happen. You're meant to get the ideas and the perspectives of young people, but you need to have all these organisations from different sectors, cross-sectional all the time, to sit down and actually listen. Because regardless of if your interaction with young people is small or it's the biggest thing ever, so it could be an MP or it can be somebody who is a youth worker, who is running a youth centre. All these people have a hand to play in how young people get to progress in this world. So you need to have them all sat down to actually talk to each other and talk to young people to understand how to actually sort out the issue.
To target the issues.
Rather than just pretend that they've found a solution. And I think that's what a lot of organisations used to do, where they pretend they found an issue, bring in a bunch of young people, don't let them do anything. Where the organisations I work through, they actually sit us down, they have the experts talk to us, and we give our ideas and our feedback back so that we can actually sort out some of the issues that are really affecting us at that point of time.
That is amazing. What you guys do is honestly amazing, and we need more of that. Definitely. We need more people kind of taking things upon themselves and saying we don't just have to sit back, because I guess a lot of people do see that distance with us and politics. Politics are two different things, or you're only concerned about it when you hit 18.
Yeah, that's called NIMBYism, basically, like not in my backyard.
There we go. No, I didn't even know that. So thank you very much for sharing something new with me. No, that's incredible. But if there was any advice that you could give to any young people who want to get into politics or want to get into something that they believe will actually make a change in society, how would you advise them?
My advice really will be start it. If you have the passion, if you have the goal, you can always find it. And people tend to think that all these services are so inaccessible and they're for certain type of people. Right. I'm very sorry. I am a young black girl who used to live in East London. What certain type of person are you looking for?
Yeah.
Like, it's not about a demographic. It's not for certain people. If you really have a passion for it, most boroughs have a youth council. Most boroughs have a youth forum of some sort. If there's not, go to another borough. I know for a fact there's boroughs who want young people's opinions, or if you can't work with a council, organisations, TFL Youth Panel. I really didn't think TFL would even have a youth panel, but the fact that they do, NHS Youth Forum open to every young person in the country, TFL Youth Panel open to a lot of young people who live in London who use these services. Your local hospitals would have like youth panels usually. If there's not one, set one up. I know a friend of mine didn't have a young mayor in her borough, so she emailed the council and she said, these are the reasons why I want a young mayor.
Oh, how old is she?
She at that point she was about 17 at that point. Wow. She emailed, said I wanted a young mayor. The borough said, okay, you can be it. Wow. So it really works in your favour. If you want something, just go for it, because the opportunity is always there. And I always see people saying, but you know, what if they don't come looking for you? What if you don't get it? All these sorts of kind of like barriers. And I'm saying, well, we know how to jump over barriers. We've been doing it for so long, and if the opportunity is not there, build a door. It will definitely knock for you at some point. It's all in due time, and it's really about when and where you want to do it and how you want to do it. And as soon as you've got an idea or a goal, nothing can stop you from reaching it.
That's absolutely incredible. I'm so inspired by you. It's absolutely insane. Now, one thing about you is obviously, aside from your incredible achievements, which we don't want to lose track of too much because they're so amazing and we want that to be at the forefront, there are two layers to you as a young person and to your experiences in life as well. One of which would be something that you've actually been through, and a very touching story in regards to domestic abuse and your personal relationship to that as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
For me personally, it wasn't an idea of it was some crazy way of nobody loves you and that sort of. I enjoyed my childhood. My childhood was amazing. It was the best experience ever. And I think this is just talking from a young African perspective as well.
Right. Where are you from?
So I'm half Nigerian, half Zimbabwean.
Okay. Oh, so nice mix.
Thank you.
Nice, beautiful mix.
So it's kind of, I feel like a lot of my friends also go through the situation of sometimes their parents don't know how to actually portray the kind of want and push that they have for them in the correct way, and that causes an issue. And obviously nobody can say they dislike their parents to the point of if they have good intentions, and I think a lot of parents do, but sometimes I think we need to work on how that gets put across, and also how that can now be portrayed in the modern world, because going through a lot of these experiences, they did grow up in a different time, a different generation, a different country a lot of the time, so their parenting techniques can't be carried forward in that sense, because you still be raised with the same respect and love and care and drive to want to work hard, but I just feel like sometimes they need to push it in the correct mannerisms rather than kind of a mannerism that is more one-sided and very traditional. So I think that's where like my relationship came with it from, in a sense of good intentions met with kind of
just not exactly executed
in the correct way. So that's kind of how it really happened. And I really feel as though people try to hide the situation, really. And that's why I really wanted to speak on it. Not because I want to blast any African tradition. No, I love being African. I think being African was really how I got my respect and my drive to want to do well. But I also feel as though a lot of young African children feel as though what they can be going through is correct, and although their parents have the best intentions, sometimes the best intentions doesn't lead to the correct execution, like you said. And so they do need to speak up on it. And I think asking for help, or even just talking to your parents, can make a big difference. Because from my organisation as well, I do tend to see a lot of young African children, and a lot of young black children are the ones with Psychon.
Yeah,
a lot of black children are the ones, or like even foreign children, basically, like anybody with parents from, let's say, Asia, Africa, those types of countries. They tend to have the ones with the more underlying mental health issues, or the more like disconnect with the world in that sense, because they're not allowed to talk about it in their households, and they're not allowed to speak up. And I feel like sometimes just asking for help, or even finding, like I said, find an organisation who you can actually talk to, can change a lot of how you see yourself and how you move on in the world. And
so just to kind of just to clarify just a little bit, so obviously this is something that happened within your household, and obviously parenting, let's just say, because I know this is very, very sensitive for you, but parenting not exactly done in the best of ways, as you've already mentioned. What kind of incident or something that is memorable to you, or something that would trigger this to happen? What kind of incident can you remember? Is there a particular moment that you can remember that particularly stands out for you?
I think it was just a particular moment for me, which just kind of always stood out, but never was extreme to me. It was how I was really pushed to do well, and I loved it. But obviously, I was really young. I was probably still in primary school, actually starting GCSE work, and I would get the constant backlash of getting something wrong. And for me, it really stood out because it kind of like molded how I saw myself, in a sense of, oh, if you do something wrong, that's it. You're just disgraceful. Like, you've really pushed yourself down really low. And even like I then grew up to want to always be impressed. Like, I always wanted to impress my family and always be the one for my family. And so I think that really stood out, because I think a lot of people once again go through that situation where they don't understand how it's actually damaging them, because they're having to carry this whole weight on their shoulders of being, in an ideal world, perfect. And I think a lot of people actually need to start understanding to accept your imperfections is actually the way of claiming to be the most perfect person in the world. That's why I'm...
Wait, you need to say that all again. Say that again. To accept your imperfections
is to be the most perfect person in the world.
And in terms of when these things were going on, obviously at home, and you were in certain situations, did you ever seek help? Did you ever speak to somebody? Did you ever express it? Because I know obviously I come from an African background as well, so a lot of the times certain parenting, or the way that our parents, obviously, like you said, they come from a different generation, different let's just say a different mindset with how their parents parented them. So for them, sometimes they don't even see it as a problem, and it's not really an issue. And so sometimes the way we've been parented, we might take it, obviously we're going to be a bit more offended than they probably were. But did you ever feel like you even had to speak to somebody, or did you just feel as though like this is completely normal?
For me, I personally didn't feel I had to speak to somebody, because I wasn't going through the excess, if you see it. Like, I was very much in a calm situation. I'm always going to say I love my childhood. I was given the world and more, basically. So I can honestly say I never felt like I did. It was only until actually a family member came to me and said, like, this, you need to actually like assess the situation a bit more, because
was that because they had seen something? Was that because
they were like were aware of how I was growing up. And even though to my family I was really cool and I was really calm and collected and was very much the calm child in a sense, they were still pretty concerned about how calm I was in certain situations. So at that point of time, it was kind of like, you know what, you do need to take a look at some of the things that have gone on and definitely talk to somebody about it. And it wasn't easy, like, because I'm always going to say I loved where I was. I loved who I became. In a sense, I was content with everything. I couldn't say I was completely happy, but I was content with where my life was going. I was pretty calm. But for somebody in my family to be that concerned, I did have to take it into account.
Where would you say you are now in terms of, just things at home, and you're just in a general sense, what would you say is the situation now?
I'm good. I think that's where I can say, like, it's nothing that I think this whole situation has actually made it easier for everybody to understand that this isn't a situation that should have been going on. A lot of conversations have started, and I think a lot of the time that's where a lot of African households miss it. They refuse to talk about a situation, and I think something big has to happen for conversation to start. So I'm definitely in a good place right now. I'm very much happy with everything that's going on with my family. Everybody's
amazing.
like what I'm saying, everybody's healthy. Yeah. So I'm very happy right now.
No, I'm very glad. And just the final thing that I would ask you was just some advice that you would give to anybody who was possibly in that situation, because you are so incredibly brave for you to be able to sit here and speak to me about it. Because like you said, especially coming from an African background, you know, a lot of African people don't like speaking about things like this. Sometimes because of ignorance and just because we see it as normal, but sometimes because this is our business. We don't speak about this kind of stuff. But what advice would you give to anyone else that might be in your situation, that in the situation you were before?
And to be honest, this would be for like anybody, is just talk about it. Find somebody, anybody, and talk to them about it. And also never assume everybody's okay. I think we actually just need to start building each other up a bit more, and that could be in your family, that can be in your friendship group. Build everybody up. I don't think anybody should be selective of who gets your help more, who gets your advice more, who gets your time more. I think everybody deserves it, and that way you can actually learn from your you can unconsciously learn from your own advice, and not only your advice but how you help somebody. And you need to realize that you helped somebody because you spoke to them. So that's the way you help yourself. You need to start speaking to people. If you feel a certain way, talk to them about it. And most of the times, talk to your parents about it. I think although it's going to be a very hard conversation, your parents love you regardless. Talk to them, tell them this is a serious issue in which I'm feeling a certain type of way. And if that doesn't work, then always carry on talking. I think a conversation must be had to make a change.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank
you are full of so much knowledge. It's insane. But keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring. Keep being incredible. And you're paving a way for so many other young people to follow suit and to really take things into their own hands. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing as well your story as well. So thank you so much. But of course, this is a super sensitive topic. But I think the main thing that you mentioned there was talk about it and really be open. Let's have these conversations and let's actually make a change. So once again, thank you so much, Bridget, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll see you guys again next time.